Hey everybody. Hello, 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 hello. I gotta wait for some people to come on in because every time I get started, something always goes wrong with my technology. So I want to wait for a second. I'm gonna wait for a second to make sure everybody comes in. Do my little do. I got a special guest today. Hey, somebody came up in here. Hello. I got a special guest today. Wait for me a second so I can do my introduction. All right. My name is Reese Roberts. This is Entertain the Thoughts, and I have some beautiful special guests with me today. This is my niece, Mia. She is 13 years old, and that's my other niece, La Niece, and she's what? 11. She's 11. They're going to help me present my discussion with you today, talking about the education system and talking about how the Black community is positioned in the education system, and also how we're going to potentially improve our positioning in the education system and how we're going to use it for our betterment instead of our detriment. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is some of the things that inspired me to start my research group. Okay, so one thing I do know about educating yourself is that your passion is what actually fuels your education. Whatever it is that you like to do, whatever it is that comes naturally to you, that's essentially what your education is going to be in your life, regardless of whether or not you're intentionally educating yourself that way or not. Because what happens is when you get interested in something, and this is what your soul naturally is drawn to, then that is how you become educated. That's how your spirit will automatically do the educating for you. You don't actually have to invest so much time and energy into educating yourself, because what really happens is your spirit will do it for you. So I have my nieces here today because, of course, these are children and they're in school. And one of the huge inhibitors in our community is institutionalization, something that we have a really huge issue with overcoming because of mandates, because of stereotypes, because of certain communal expectations we have in our communities to actually have our children in school. I would love to know if we have anybody that participates in homeschool, because that to me is a better type of education system instead of going into the institution to be educated there. So I'm going to ask a few questions to my niece about her experience in her school. She can, just help us to shed some light from a real child's perspective and not just, adults sitting around trying to decide what should be best for children when the children are fully capable of speaking for themselves. Especially this one. This one right here, she's 13, but she really is like 23, 33. This is a grown woman right here. So I'm going to talk to her and we're going to try to sort some things out. So the first thing I want to know is how many have you been to? I'm gonna move this over so you can talk, and you don't have to yell or anything. It's a pretty good microphone. Okay. So how many schools have you been to so far
since being in kindergarten?
Well, that you can remember.
3.
Were they all about the same?
Yeah. No, not really.
Okay. How did you feel they were educating you? Did you feel like you were getting a better education at one place versus another?
Yes.
Which one would give you the good education, and why was it good to you more so than the other ones?
At my old school, before I moved to this new school, at my old school, when it was in 7th grade,
mm-hmm.
and I'm still in 7th grade, but it was in 7th grade in the old school, and is the teachers. Some of the teachers taught us with, how would you say it? Like they taught us,
like with passion.
Yes.
They wanted to do it.
Yes, and not somebody who will just give us word and expect us to figure it out without even teaching us how we're supposed to do it, or like how it's supposed to be done. And at this school, they don't even teach me anything because I'm new. So all the other stuff that they teach me is something that I already know. because it's not really an advanced school that I'm at right now. I only have 2 classes that are advanced. In my old school, I had all advanced classes. And it's kind of weird because this is something that's so easy, and in my old school, it was, I already learned that, plus more. And
that's interesting. That lets me know they don't know who you are. Do you feel like they understand you at your school, your teachers? Did they know where you are?
No.
How advanced you really are?
Yeah, they don't know any.
Do they ever make an attempt? Like, is there ever a moment in your school where you have like maybe a one-on-one with the counselor?
Oh yes, I have had one-on-one with counselors about the second day that I was in the school. I had asked her, was there any advanced social studies or science, or I only have 2 advanced classes, what's up? And she only said that they only have 2 advanced classes. I'm like, what? I already know some of that stuff. You're lowering me down for what I already know.
And I think that's really sad because you have schools out there that are all advanced. Everything they do is advanced. And so to me, that's one of the disadvantages that we have, because in the Black community, you could go to a school where they don't necessarily expect for you to be able to do so well. So they don't even offer those classes because they don't even expect for you to be able to keep up, which is sad because I don't know about y'all's kids, but these children are intelligent. My nieces have always been advanced. That's the case for a lot of our children. They're in environments where they're not being catered to. They're not being, and I know there are reasons for that. They're not being understood for where they are because the environment is so overrun with all kinds of different situations. Do you have children in your class that misbehave or that disrupt class or that don't know how to contain themselves? What do they do with them?
Nothing.
They let them stay in the class? So nobody else can learn when they being disruptive. How do they, get that together? They just
sit still. Sometimes I say something to them. Sometimes I don't. When I feel like that's the teacher's place, they need to say something to them, and I can't always say something. So, and especially, I don't want to be kind of racist, but it's mainly the Caucasian teachers who don't say anything.
And I'm pretty sure. And okay, so this is another topic that we've talked about, where we hear. I want to move this out your face. Where we hear people saying Black students need Black teachers. There's a real reason for that. And to me, what we have to know is that our culture is much different than Caucasian culture. First of all, mostly everything we do in our community, our children are more advanced. They have a certain perspective that is different than a Caucasian child, because the things that this child goes through in her life is going to be a lot different than what's going on in the life of her Caucasian counterpart in a lot of different ways. And so when you have a system that is supposed to be educating all children the same, but not necessarily taking into consideration that all these children are not the same, you run into problems. You run into real problems that can only be addressed by way of paying special attention. So I want to say something that I don't, just so I'm not taking away from educators, because the system is corrupt from the top down, not from the bottom up. And what I know about many teachers is that they are there because of the passion, because they want to see students learn, and because they want to be educators, but they don't have support from the system itself. I have followed Instagram pages from Black educators. I've seen posts and memes from Black educators where they're very passionate about their Black students, but they don't have money because they're not being properly funded by the state or by the government. So they don't have the money to give the materials to teach the students the way they want to. They don't have the proper resources or support from their school administrators to create the programs that they know need to be created. They don't have the support. And so what are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about that? Let me ask you this. Do you feel like you're being prepared just because you're a mature child and you see how adults pretty much operate in this world? Do you feel like you're being prepared to the point where you can be successful, where you'll be able to do what you want to do, make a good living and all that? Do you feel like your education right now is putting you in a place where you can?
Yes, kind of. Because
okay.
like I said earlier, well, when I was talking, like I said, they only really focus on language arts and math. They say that science and social studies don't really count. They only focus on what they say that we're going to really need as we get older, as we get a job, or as we want to move as an adult.
Agreed. Okay, I can understand that. I'm going to tell you, this baby just told me that they told her that science and social studies is not as relevant as math and language. So they're pretty much leaving it as like a secondary field of study instead of keeping it as a primary field of study, which to me is ridiculous, because going back, when you think about ancient culture, where our people disseminated all knowledge across the globe, there was no knowledge left out. First of all, conceptually, that doesn't make it a whole lot of sense. To leave education, to leave your students now in a place where they're not learning everything. Now, like I said, you're right, Terry, everything is relevant, especially science and social studies. I was giving her an example right now. Social studies back in the day used to be, okay, I'm learning about civics. I'm learning about, how the legislator works. I'm learning about how the government is hierarchy. I'm learning about governmental structure. I'm learning about the different offices that are held in the government. That's social studies. But today, what is social studies? It's a whole lot different. In truth, if I were teaching social studies, I'm teaching sociology, because that's the science of social studies, which is sociology. And these children, hey, Lisa, I said no sound, please. Can you get out? Thank you. Why would you start that up right there? Children. And she got it blazing. Turn it off, Lisa. Turn it off, because it's too loud. So what we have is where we're being considered, we're being dumbed down. Because if you say social studies, you're just saying, okay, I'm going to give you a very basic understanding of what social studies is. Because if you were to tell a child that sociology is really the science of social studies, then they might actually become too advanced, because social studies or sociology is a study of passion. You basically enter that in whatever field you're interested in, but they're not there to teach the child passion. They're not there to teach the child how to become a genius or how to become a master. They're only there to give you the very basic understanding of what will allow you to maybe answer a few trivia questions when you're at game night. And to me, that's not an education. That's not how we, y'all got to get out. Out. Thank you. But no, this is not how we are going to teach our children in these next few decades. Because like I said, the program is not there to teach the child. The program is there to program the child. And we have to understand that sending our children to an institution, they're being programmed in such a way that they're not learning the science of a thing. What they're actually learning more so is just the basic skills, the basic knowledge that go into it. Because if they learn the science, that's what's in their DNA. I talk to you guys about this a lot. Your information that really is your true education is already written in your DNA. Once you become passionate about it, that's when you activate your DNA, and the education becomes, a part of you. It becomes something that you're actually, giving out as your own passion. And you naturally have this connection to the information because it is what you're passionate about. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how how the schools are necessarily set up for jail. And this is what my niece just told me. Mia said they really want us to be set up for jail. And to me, it makes perfect sense that is clearly the direction that they're going in. So when you think about the curriculum at your school, you feel challenged?
No.
What do you feel would be a better way for you to learn? What would you feel like would be you would love going to school if it was what way?
If it was a way that my mother would teach me, or you would teach me, that we would talk about something that's real and relevant.
Girl, you better preach. Did you hear what she said? She says she wants to learn something that's real and relevant. School is not doing that. It's just absolutely not doing that. I have 3 nieces and 1 nephew. I asked every last one of them, do they like school? And every last one of them said no. That's a problem. Why? Because then you get a situation where if I don't like my environment, am I going to thrive? If I don't like my teacher, am I going to want to learn from her? If I don't like these students in my class, am I going to want to learn with them? Am I going to want to do group activity? Do y'all do group activities?
Yeah, sometimes.
Y'all get a chance to go outside and do experiments?
No.
Do y'all get recess?
Yes.
You get recess. You don't get recess no more.
No.
Yeah, after a certain age, you don't get recess. But, you know, this is something that I want us to understand about education. I want us to understand this so that when we send our children off, we're giving them the right perspective. And this is what I tell my nieces and my nephew. When you are in school, there's a certain way to go about getting the education. There's a certain way about handling your own business, because being in school is one thing, but actually learning and getting the education is a whole nother thing. How do we bridge the gap between just simply being in school and actually being educated? And again, it starts with how we are approaching the education itself. How are we giving it to the kids? If they don't feel like what they're learning is something that is going to help them or benefit them, or if it makes sense to them or something that they actually want to learn, how are we expecting for them to thrive? Now, I know we have a lot of children that do well in school. She does well in school. But that's not because it's so great of a situation. She does great in school because she can. She's a very intelligent young lady, and she knows how to just simply get it out the way, like I was telling y'all. Okay, let me ask you that. When you tell me what you said, or tell them what you said about your work, whenever they give you something, do you feel like they just give it to you and that's it? Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
At my old school, it was mainly my science teacher. She'll just give us the work and expect us to do it, and show us a video that's 2 minutes to 3 minutes long, and expect us to do it without teaching us how it's supposed to be done, what are we supposed to do, how long it's supposed to take us to be done, how long it's supposed to take it to be done, and that's it. She just give it to us, and
that's the lesson.
Us to do it. Yes.
So,
it's mainly in science.
Do you feel like your teachers know the stuff that they're trying to teach?
No. No. I just think they go to their little meetings and they listen to what the main person's supposed to say, and then they just give us the work.
And they come back and give you the work, and that's the work.
Yes. And be gone. Teachers be gone for a long time. And we be having substitutes, and the substitutes don't know what to teach us because they just there to watch us, and they just give us the work and expect it to be done.
You got substitutes a lot?
Yeah, we had substitutes a lot, and sometimes they couldn't even afford substitutes because they said that our school was too bad.
Are you serious? These are things we cannot afford. Can't afford this in the Black community. Can't afford it. This is not gonna work. I can't take hearing stuff like that. That learning is an everyday experience. Learning is something that must take place on a daily basis all throughout your life, regardless of if you're doing it intentionally or not. And so, okay, I'm going to go back to talking a little bit more about this research team that I put together, because this, I feel, is a perfect supplement to that. When we have situations where the child is not being given work that's relevant, work that makes sense to them, work that's going to benefit them in some particular way, then there has to be something about that when the child is not learning because the resources are not there. So what I want to say and be very clear, I'm not coming down on the education system, but what I am saying is that the education system is not functioning in a proper way where it's going to give us what we need to carry our future, or to carry our children into their future in such a way that they will not be in the position that they're in the position that we're in. We are in a position or a state of unknowing. These children don't have to be. They don't have to be. There is too much information out here for all students to be able to take a charge of their education and also be the director of their own future, the creator of their own reality. And this is the reason why I created this program, okay? The program is designed to show students how to teach themselves. How do you learn on your own? Because if there is another person, let's just say in all righteousness, the teacher is overwhelmed. The teacher has no support. The teacher has passion, but the teacher also has problems. They have students that are not teachable, that are mixed in with the students that do want to learn. So that causes a problem. Then you have teachers that don't have the resources. So that causes a problem. And, there's bureaucracy that is involved in the mix, all the politics about how these children are being educated. Now, she mentioned some tests, standardized state tests that I've never even heard of. Now, I want to know, first of all, it's been 15 years since I've been out of school completely. I've never heard of the standardized tests that she's talking about. And so what I want to understand, and this is my theory, is that every time they come out with a new standardized test, they have either altered or lowered the standards to where their incompetency is being suited, not the children's ability learn or the children's level of education. But what they're doing is they're standardizing the test based on their ability to teach. So if they're saying, okay, no longer do the children need to know how to do trigonometry in the 8th grade. Now they need to learn just geometry. This is something that is an issue, because what's happening is they can't teach trigonometry no more. They don't have qualified teachers. They don't have qualified resources. They don't have, a sufficient system to be able to teach certain things. So they just take it out of the standardized test, take it out of the standardized learning. But what happens when they do that in the institution? Everybody that's in the institution, everybody that's a part of the institution is affected by that degrading of the curriculum, where I'm no longer teaching something or I'm changing how it's being taught. My niece, she's very intelligent. She said math is too hard. It's because they have been changing the approach of how math is being taught. I've heard and seen several different publications, posts, and memes where teachers and students are talking about the new standardized form of learning simple arithmetic, learning multiplication, learning long division, learning, fractions. The system of learning is being more complicated. Why? They don't want your child to be a genius. They don't want your child to level up when it comes to that education, especially not in the Black community. Because what happens if you teach a child the proper science, if you teach a child the proper knowledge going around the advanced concepts, then they become a genius and they start doing things like inventing their own Google at the age of 14. I think there's a student somewhere out there that did that. There's a young man right now. He's a Black engineer. I think he's 24 years old, and he builds robots with artificial intelligence. I met a guy not too long ago where he learned blockchain technology. This is all self-taught. The people I'm talking about are self-taught, by the way. The man that I know that builds robots by way of, the guy I saw was in the news, but the one I know who builds artificially intelligent robots, self-taught. Okay, if you are interested in looking him up, he's at Hive Labs, HIVELABS. This is a man who builds robots, okay, self-taught. He did not go to school, but I'm going to tell you what the situation is with him, and I do nothing but respect it. After he taught himself programming and coding language, and after he taught himself how to build robots, now, do you know MIT, one of the leading technology schools in this country, is now offering their lab to him for free so that he can go and use their lab resources for free, flying him out to their school so that he can go and experiment for free? Now, see, this is what I'm telling you. They will accept you once you taught it to yourself, because they know you got the wisdom to teach yourself what they won't teach you. But when he gets it up to an advanced level of knowing, which is natural, Trust and believe me, that man learned because he naturally had a passion for technology. And when he went to discover what he wanted to know about technology, he became an expert. And he started to operate on an advanced level of what he taught himself because he had a natural passion for it. The young man that I know that he uses artificially intelligent cameras like Big Brother. This brother has a what is it? It's like a QR. Basically, he's got a camera that is able to read like a QR code, holographic images. Self-taught, you guys. Self-taught. There is no school. There is no institution that's going to do that for you. There is no institution that's going to take you from a level of being basic to a level of being advanced. Because it's not set up that way. And my niece is here to tell you. These students, she said to me, and I'm going to say it again. The teacher puts a worksheet on the desk and tells you, okay, this is your work for the day. You need to fill this out. You're basically filling out forms. And that's your education. She's not teaching it. She's not discussing it. She's not reviewing it. She's not going over the questions. It's fill out this form and that's your education. We cannot accept that. Excuse me. We cannot accept that. What we owe these children is a lot more when it comes to their education. Yes, it's easy to put your child in an institution. It's easy to send your child off to school and to say it's them that's going to teach my child. But then when I got my student telling me that they're not even concerned with her being educated, whose child is going to remain that way? Do you think I'm going to let my niece, you think I'm going to let my nephew, do you think I'm going to let my son be institutionalized to the point where they're just basic and they don't have any form of supplemental education to turn to besides the institutionalized learning that they've been subject? And then on top of that, they want you to immunize your child every single year when they go to school. Why? Because of those chemicals, dumbing down their brains, calcifying their pineal glands, getting them to a place where they don't even know how to be themselves because you cookie cuttered their brain so much. Okay, let me ask you this. When you go through your school, what kind of creative curriculum do they have for you guys? And that's a great comment that you made, Ron Long. The educational system kills creativity, and it really does. So talk to me about that a little bit. What kind of creative curriculum do y'all have?
Well, they have STEM, robotics club, like technology kind of, where you build your robots.
That's cool.
Yeah, math club, I guess, but
that ain't creative. Math. Yeah, I'm not taking that, girl. I hate math. But anyway. Well, okay. So they do robots. So what else? The math class.
They have STEM, which is science, technology, STEM. What's the E? I forgot the E in math. I forgot the E.
I don't know what the E would be. Yeah. Engineering?
Oh, yeah. Engineering. Yeah.
I like engineering. So what's that? Have you had any experience with the STEM program?
No.
Why not? You smart.
Yeah, but I don't want to. I don't want to build robots.
How you know you don't want to do it if you ain't never done it?
Well, I don't know. I like trying
this sounds so much like her mom.
I like trying things new, but sometimes I don't. When I feel like that's not gonna really help me, even though I should.
Yes, programming is kind
important.
Programming is like probably the realest thing you'll learn, probably. But if you have, I would say, if you give it a chance, just go in there and see what they're talking about, because you smart. And I took a programming class in college. I went to ITT Tech, and I took a programming class. It was probably the most interesting thing I did the whole time I was in school. And I went in there for computer networking systems. Computer networking is boring because it's basically how do all of these devices talk to each other. Anything that's computerized, it networks with other devices. Like, when you get on the Wi-Fi system, this is connected to the same thing. That's connected. So the computer networking system just show you how that network works together, how to get them all connected, talking to each other, and But anyway, we're going to get off of that just because.
I have a technology class. But in that technology class, we really don't do anything. We don't do code or stuff like that. No, we learn how to write a job application, resumes.
that's kind of relevant, but I mean, you can get a resume written for $25. You don't necessarily need to know that. You can know it, but I would much prefer you use your brain power for something that you need to know. Because, I mean, there are people out there that write your resume for you for $25. One of your cousins has a service that does that. I think she's called Royal Resumes, by the way, if you guys are interested in that. She's based out of Maryland. I think it's called Royal Resumes. She will write your resume for a decent price if you need somebody to do that for you. I'm just plugging for my cousin. But what I also want for you guys to understand what I'm saying to you, why do I need to know who the presidents are when I can ask Google Assistant? Have you ladies heard of Prince EA video called What is School For? I have heard of Prince EA. If not, I highly recommend you check it out. I have heard of Prince EA, and this is one of the reasons why I created this program, and reason why I'm having this talk with you today and with my niece is because we all are aware that there's a problem with the institutionalization of our schools, but what are we actually doing about it? And honestly, I want to have more of a solution-based discussion, because these things that my niece is talking about, it's not just a one school problem. This is a problem that's happening with all of our children. This is something that's happening with all of the grade school kids. Even when you get to a level of college, there are certain problems with the institutionalization of that particular organization. We have to know that there is something that we can do to supplement these educations. And I want to highlight something that this brother Ron Long just said. You can use Google Assistant to do a lot of your learning. A lot of things that you have right now. First of all, technology was created to enhance the human experience. So naturally, by way of evolution, humans don't have to be as off the top technically smart like we used to be, because there's some people that have a computer for a brain and they can just bring up information and they can call it off the top of their head. But there are some people who don't have that ability, but they still can get the same results because they have Google. They have a technology assistant that can help them to be able to have that heightened capacity. So what should education be doing? Education should be using that technology. Education should be using the supplemental things that it has access to continue teaching in ways that we need to learn. Okay? Like this brother is talking about, Ron Long, you basically doing my job for me. They never taught us how to invest in ourselves, how to build credit, real estate, and etc. This is, again, a problem. Why are they not doing that? Like I said, we don't need to be learning fun facts anymore. When you go to school and you put a child in school, they teaching them fun facts, things that basically is like trivia questions. You can put that stuff in Google. Teach me something that I need to actually learn that is going to actually show me how to move around in society. Let me see. Does your school ever encourage you to go into a line of work that's not normal? Like, would they ever teach you about being a social media influencer, or teach you about unconventional type of things? Do they encourage that at your school? No. It's just basic stuff. Mm-hmm. How many of your friends want to be social media influencers? She said we don't talk about that. Oh goodness.
But it's mainly that we talk about being basic lawyer or entrepreneur, stuff like that. Entrepreneur
is not that bad though, because that's what I am.
That's what I want to be.
That's good. I'm gonna tell you this, because when you go to a place where the only thing you really know is the school stuff, it's not going to set you apart. It's not going to make you look any more or less appealing to say that, okay, I got great, like really good grades in school. It's like, okay, that's great. That's really good. I'm glad that you did well in school, but can you do this? You see what I'm saying? Like when you go somewhere and the skill, or I'm going to go a little bit deeper into what he said about building credit and real estate. Do you know that pretty much everything in this whole society operates on credit? You know what a credit card is? Okay. You know the difference between debit and credit? Okay. because a debit card means you got the money on there. You got actual money. A credit card means you have no money. And all you're doing is buying this on basically a loan that you're going to pay back at some point. And so what he just said is they don't tell you how to build your credit. Because when you have a credit card, you don't just get the credit and have the credit and keep the credit. If you mess it up by doing things that are not according to the credit system or according to the credit standardized rules, then you lose your credit. You lose what they call credibility, where you can't be trusted with the money. So they say, okay, if I advance her $500 and she ain't gave me back but $5, am I going to go and give her another $500? No, I'm not, because she's not credit worthy. I can't give her no more money. And so what they don't teach you in school is how to follow those rules, how to be in compliance with the credit card company. And this is what this brother is talking about. You need to know that.
And then they let you figure it out on your own as you get older.
Yes, they do. And you learn the hard way.
Yes.
You learn when you get broke.
But I remember when I was in 6th grade, it was just me and this girl. We always talked about stuff like this. For example, is the earth flat around, or parent situations, grown people situations that we will discuss, and we have our own opinions. And sometimes it gets out of hand. We start arguing with each other.
You talking with your friends?
It's just only been me and this one girl. Her name was Kennedy, and we always used to talk stuff about that. And she always used to tell me that she likes to talk to me about stuff like that, because I'm the only one that she can talk to me.
That makes sense, because you are mature.
Yeah.
You know more about it. Do they have any contact with y'all about your home life situations? Like, let's just say you had a friend that was being abused or bullied or something. Do they have resources? You know, what they call it? I guess that's a counselor too.
The counselor.
You go to the counselor and they talk to you about what to do and all that extra stuff. That's good, because what's another thing I know is a huge inhibitor when it comes to us educating children is when they're not in the right mental state to learn. Children who are under pressure in different ways, they can't learn. When you're in a state of your lower chakra, things like your higher chakra, your mental state up here where your crown chakra is, you can't even focus on this. When you're not in a place of comfort, but you're in a state of fear. Okay. This Ron Long person, you need to be a proctor in my program, because you're speaking my language. I know one thing that's true: marketing triumphs everything. Do you see me clapping my hands? Marketing trumps everything. Why does marketing trump everything? I'm going to give you my opinion about that, Ron Long. I'm pretty sure that you have your own having your own opinion, but why does marketing trump everything? Because in entrepreneurship, first of all, entrepreneurship is the new wave. We're not creating employees anymore. My niece is not going to be an employee to anybody. What's going to happen is she's going to learn her way. She's going to start her own business. And what's going to be her livelihood? It's going to be the success and the popularity and the value of her business. What is that relying on? It's relying on her marketing skills, her branding and marketing. If she doesn't know how to market herself, even if she was going to go and get a job, she has to know how to market herself, even as an employee. What do you think a resume is? It's a piece of marketing material. I hand you this and I'm going to tell you why you want me in your life, why you want me in your pockets. Why do you want me to serve you? Why do you want me as a part of your organization, institution? It's marketing. You need to know how to position yourself in a place to be successful. Children have to know that, because as soon as she's turned 18 and her mama tell her, you got to go get you a job, baby girl, she going to have to know how to market herself as someone who is capable of doing work. How is she going to know how to do that properly? Education. If nobody is teaching her except for just to write a resume, you can put any lie you want to on a resume, but real marketing is adding value to that piece of paper where she is actually being able to fulfill. Close the door for me. Where she is being able to fulfill what's actually written on that paper. I'm reading from Ron Long's comments. being an 80s baby growing up in the 90s, I also was an 80s baby growing up in the 90s, by the way. I love video games. I appreciate the moving art on the screen, and it was incredible. Now, back at that time, parents would tell it was a waste of time. Not no more. The gaming industry is a $1 billion industry over music and movies. You can live stream a gaming video and get revenue. It all started in 1917, and that is absolutely right. I know a person right now that got his gaming streams monetized. He doesn't even work. He doesn't even work. But is the school going to teach you that? Is an institutionalized school going to teach you that? No. They're going to teach you that the gaming world is up for a bunch of stupid kids that don't know anything. Some of the highest paid people in society right now are gamers. Some of the highest paid people in society right now are programmers. We have to know these schools are not setting these kids up for success. They're setting them up to be employees, to be slaves, to be cookie cutter versions of a worker bee. No, this the queen bee right here, baby. This the queen bee right here. She's not going into a state of being where, oh, I'm just going to do what they tell me to do. I'm going to be what they tell me to be, because they obviously know better. These my school. This is my school. These my teachers. We're not going to do that. Nisa, you want to come talk about your school? Yeah, come on, sit right here. Come on. Come sit here and talk about your school. Okay. Tell the people. Come on. Y'all gotta help me. Scoot on up to the microphone, baby. Oh, my bad. Scoot on up.
I only have one thing to say.
Go ahead and say it. There's not even nobody watching. Go ahead. Ain't nobody even in there. Yeah, nobody's on there. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, go ahead. Don't scream no more.
When we learn about
talking to the microphone, they can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
You want me to push it over here for you? There you go.
Okay.
Come on, DC, because you got people on here to leave if you don't start talking. Let's go.
I don't want to talk.
She thought she don't want to talk.
But I had a question.
Okay, what's the question?
When we learn about history, they don't tell us the real truth. And then I heard that it was the Muse brothers. And back in the day, they got kidnapped from their mother and they had to go to a fair. And then...
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, that's the people. All right, so her question was talking about history. And she was talking about... Let me get my seat back since she didn't want to stay in my seat. Her question was about history. And what she said was that there were the Muse brothers. They were taken out of their home, I guess, and sold into a circus. But really, I'm going to go to the larger point, which she's trying to talk about, which is the fact that our education system is teaching us flawed history, which is a huge problem, because you can go into any textbook that may or may not have the truth in it and Google search whatever it's telling you, and you can find the truth for yourself. But the system does not rectify that discrepancy. They just allow the misinformation to go ahead and disseminate to the students. But I'm going to say this to you and to everybody else, that when you see stuff like that happening, when you realize that you're being taught misinformation, the first thing that you need to do is go and seek out the information for yourself and understand before you even go to read anything, understand that it's up to you to determine if you believe it or not. If you just take it with a grain of salt, then that's what it'll be. You understand? Somebody could tell you that they brought millions of slaves over to this country and that's how slavery began. But if you go and read in a book that even predates your textbooks, you go and read, and that's something that's very important about research. You need to know when something was publicized, and you need to know who publicized it, because some people benefit from lying to you and some people benefit from telling you the truth. So it's up to you to determine who's lying and who's telling the truth. Now you go and you find a book much older than your textbook that was published by a much more established or respectable source, like maybe Oxford University Press. They do a lot of publicizing. You can find out that in all actuality, Arabs were the first, and these are black people now, Arab people were the first to start the slave trade. And they were not trading black people at first. They were trading Caucasians. Caucasians were the very first slaves that ever existed. And that's where the name Slavic comes from. That's like a nationality of Caucasian people. They're Slavics. That's an old term that they don't use no more because they don't want you to know they used to be slaves. They want you to think you used to be the slave. Why? Because they want to keep you being a slave. They making you think that this is how it's always been. So I'm always just keep it that way. You ain't. No, your people did not start off as being slaves.
I remember, this is something else, not slavery. But I remember when I was getting enrolled to my new school, and I was just talking to the Caucasian lady about what college that I'm not gonna probably end up being in that school because it's gonna be it's gonna take forever to get there, or I'm probably not gonna be able to. I'm probably not going to be able to go to that school because it might not be enough spots. Because at first I was talking about that I wanted to be homeschooled, and she said that it's going to take about 4 months. Like, she was downing everything that I wanted to go to, I wanted to become. And when me and my mom got in the car, she told me that I shouldn't let anybody do that to me because she doesn't know. She said now a lot of black people are very smart, and they can build their own school that's much higher than Harvard or Yale. And that Caucasian lady was just trying to bring me down and tell me that it's going to take a long time for you to get in this school, or that might not happen, and talking about how her daughter didn't get in that school because she wanted to be a nurse or something. And my mom told me I shouldn't let people do that.
No, absolutely not. We definitely can't understand, okay, especially not that type of comparison. Your education is definitely what you make it. And I'm going to tell you this from my own personal experience. My own personal experience says that your education is based on who you are, okay? That's one of the biggest problems I have with institutionalized learning. Your education is based on who you are as a person. First of all, knowledge is infinite. There is no expert in anything. I'm going to say that again. There is no expert in anything because knowledge is infinite. There is no way that you can ever fully know a thing. Ever. So to respect one person's intellect and their educational accomplishments over another person's is kind of like flawed because we have types of intelligence. We have different people who are good at different things. And so we can't hold people accountable for being as excellent as another person. Why? I'm not that person. I can't do what they do and how they do it and because they do it. This is not how the system is supposed to work. You are educated based on who you are. And that is how you master yourself. You educate yourself based on what your spirit says it wants to know. Your spirit will tell you, I want to know this. That's why I also have another issue with institutionalized learning because for me, for example, I didn't realize who I was until maybe a couple of years ago. I'm 31. There's no way I was going to make a decision at 17 or 18 years old what I was going to do for a living. How I wanted to spend the rest of my life. I had no idea. I didn't even know who I was. But if we had programming and educational programs from early age, teaching a child not, okay, this is what you need to know and this is the education that you have to have, but actually teaching them who they are. They will educate themselves. We are like little computers that go around and soak up information depending on what environment we're in. And I'm going to tell you this, you're learning from your environment regardless if you're doing it on purpose or not. Your environment is constantly teaching you. Your spirit is constantly teaching you. And so your responsibility is not to rely on another person to tell you, this is your education, this me, or they hand you a degree. Hear me, please. Because when she gets older, she's going to get to a point where she's going to college. Somebody's going to hand her a degree at some point and say, okay, this represents your education. Does that mean she's going to stop learning? Does that mean she's going to stop pursuing education? Does that mean she's going to stop pursuing understanding? No. It simply means that she has reached a level that they have approved of. But we already know they don't know her. You got her teachers right now underestimating her ability and under challenging her because they don't know her. If they knew who she was, they would be able to expect more out of her. They would be better equipped to challenge her. They would be better equipped to pull things out of her, to expose her to things. But this is not what's going on. They have too many kids to look after. Why? Because they have the bad ones mixed in with the good ones. Why? Because they don't have resources. Why? Because they don't have passion. Why? Because they don't have paychecks. These are all issues that we cannot afford to let slide by while our children are waiting in the wake, floating in the aftermath of all of that. These students still have to learn. They still need to know that education is self-directed. Your spirit guides your education, not an institution, not a degree program, not what do you call them things? The magnets, stems. You call them stems. Not a STEM program. That's not what's going to do it. What's going to do it is my student is going to tell me, you know, Auntie, she go to her mom, Mama, this is really interesting to me. They have all kinds of coding programs for kids now. You should get into one of those and just see what it's about. But they got all kind of stuff out there that are enrichment programs for kids. I started an enrichment program. So if y'all are interested, come on with it now. Get with your girl. And my enrollment is open. But what I want you to hear me even further, you are not going to stop ever. You're not ever going to stop educating yourself. Your children are scientists. And you must know that, especially if you have small children. So when they're going through their scientific phases, their scientific methods, this is something that I teach about, scientific method. These children are natural scientists. Every human being is a natural scientist. We are always interacting, observing, and testing, and, hypothesizing about our environments. We formulate theories, and we test those theories, and we measure the outcome. This is a scientific method. We form conclusions, and then we build on that data going forward. This is something that is consistently happening all the time. So don't ever think at some point, because you reach a certain age, or because you got a degree, or because you in this program and you graduated from the program, that you're now all of a sudden you're educated and you just have to stop. No, this is not how we do in 2019. What we know is that we need supplemental education to make sure that we are consistently leveling up, that we're consistently challenging our thoughts, consistently challenging our paradigms, consistently challenging our realities to get to a point where we're able to create more things because we're able to learn more. We're able to see more. We're able to consider more. Why? Because we know more. We know more. So when you know, you're able to do. Information creates action. Information is actionable. You understand? So when you got these students and they're in school, let me tell you this. Children are very passionate. There are children out there right now that are changing the world because they have been exposed to things that give them the resources and the education to be able to do so. How about this young girl that came up with her own lemonade stand, organic lemonade? She's being sold in Walmart. The young lady is multi-million level, okay? I think she's multi-million. She's a kid. She's a child. You got kids out there inventing devices that help clean the water in the ocean, inventing devices that help you to, what was that device that child made? Something about cancer. I can't even think. It was a little meme I saw with these kid inventors on it. That's passion. That's education. And when you marry those two things together, that's when you get genius. That is when you get genius. You get passion first. You get passion from knowing who you are. I'm lucky because my niece know who she is. My niece knows she's smart. My niece know that she can do whatever she put her mind to. But how many students out there don't? How many students out there are waiting for a teacher to come and say you're smart? How many students are out there to come and waiting for a teacher to properly evaluate them? For a teacher to give them extra challenging work? That's not going to happen. They don't have the resources. We just went over this. They don't have the patience. They don't have the resources. They don't have the passion themselves these days. A lot of teachers do, but a lot of teachers, on top of their passion, they have burdens that kind of siphon off the energy from their passion. Because if you stick a passionate teacher in a classroom and you tell them to teach, everything you do makes it hard for them to teach. They're not going to be able to get these students together. Putting work down on the desk and then walking away. Adults don't even learn like that. Adults don't even learn like that. Ron Long says a formal education can make you a living, but a self-taught education can make you a fortune. Come on now, Ron Long. This brother is on point. Another good point that speaks to that is when they say you have to have a degree to get a great job, but you do not have to have a degree to create a great company. You have to have a degree to be somebody's employee. You do not have to have a degree to be somebody's employer. You must know that. You must know that. And the employer is the one making all the money. You have to know that. You have to apply that. You have to put that into practice and get to learn how do you become the employer. You're not trying to become the employee. What do you need to know? What do you need to know to become an entrepreneur? Give me some off the top of your head. What you need to know? If you want to run your own business, tell me some subjects that you might need to study.
I don't know. How about to be an entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm.
So to work for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, how to work with other people.
I like that. That's perfect.
If you're working for yourself, of course you're gonna wanna hire people to work with you. So you gotta learn how to work with other people. Sometimes when you're working for yourself, learning the basics that you learn in school can be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
I agree. There's always a benefit to knowing the building blocks. I agree with that. But I'm going to tell you for sure, you could get all the building blocks you need in the first, I want to say 6 years of your education. First grade through 6th grade, you good. But when you start getting to middle school and you start to get to a place where stuff is starting to get real in your life, they need to start teaching y'all things like, relationship dynamics, emotional intelligence. Y'all need to know things like, okay, I'm going to tell you some things that entrepreneurs do better when they know. Like he said, marketing, communications, knowing how to effectively communicate with a person, how to speak in a certain way, talk in a certain way, having presentation skills, knowing how to put together proposals, knowing how to, oh my God, what's some of the stuff I do on a daily basis? Knowing how to design things, like knowing the elements of design, how to brand yourself, knowing how to, gosh, there's so much. Networking skills. It's a real art to networking. Knowing how to put yourself in a position to communicate with people that are of interest to you. There's a certain science to it. And I'm pretty sure they're not teaching you how to network in school. But at some point, maybe when you get a little older, you're kind of young. But when you get older, they might do that. But it still goes to say, this is what my brother was saying. You have to teach yourself that kind of stuff. Because these people ain't going to do it. But anyway, you guys, we're going to go ahead and close out because I've been on here for too long. And my audio stopped recording somehow. So I want to thank Ron Long for becoming a part of this conversation and, just kind of hanging out with us right now. And all of you here too, business math. Oh, yeah, business math is really something that, if you're an entrepreneur, business math is a lot different than real math or just math because business math is something that you have to take risks into consideration. You have to take investments, overhead, and all the other kind of stuff into consideration. So I definitely agree with that. Business math is much different than just math. So I'm going to let you guys go so I can get these kids ready to go hit home with their mom. And we'll come back with you guys another time. To register for my enrichment program, go to serveincorporated.com. Serve is SERV incorporated.com and do a / and the word register. That's going to give you the page where you can go and put your name on the waiting list. We're going to start classes pretty soon, I think next week. I'm planning to start next week. If anything happens or if I don't have enough participants, then we might push that back a little bit. But I'm aiming to do it next week where we're gonna start the pilot of this research and debate program. And it's beautiful because during the process of the children learning research and debate, what I'm doing is infusing consciousness into that curriculum so that the students know how to actually operate consciousness and operate consciously in their efforts to educate themselves and to learn how to research information and how to debate the information that they've researched, how to formulate arguments, critical thinking, theory building. They're going to learn all that. So again, Serve Incorporated, SERV Incorporated.com is how you're going to register. Do a backslash and then the word register, and that's how you're going to get on the waiting list for the program. So my name is Reese Roberts. This is Entertain the Thought. This is my niece, Mia. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. We're probably going to have her on again because she's going to be a part of the program, and I'm going to want her to talk to you guys about some of the stuff that she's learning, possibly, and, just kind of give her feedback about what she's learning. Damn, that thing just went out. But anyway, we're going to go Facebook.